What's going on, guys? Graham G. Matthews here with BleacherReport.com. Busy week ahead. NXT Halloween Havoc coming up on Saturday, 8 p.m., October 22nd on Peacock. We're talking to the man behind it all, Mr. Shawn Michaels himself, one member of DX. We just saw him last week on Raw. Shawn, what's going on? You've had a busy last week.
Yeah, yeah, busier than I would care for it to be, but I could think of worse stuff. I could not have a job, so no complaints for me.
Yeah, the DX reunion last week on Raw at the Barclays Center. Very exciting stuff. Like I mentioned, Halloween Havoc coming up on Saturday. You're very much in the midst of it all. And what I find very fascinating about this whole thing is that it really goes back to you and Triple H running things as DX 25 years ago. I know we spoke a bit in depth about this when we did the biography on A&E a couple of months ago, which was great. And you're really starting to see the effects of you and Triple H running WWE 25 years later, starting with that DX group 25 years ago. It's going to be coming full circle with Halloween Havoc coming up on Saturday. So just kind of just a general question, just talking about that that journey from when DX started 25 years ago to where you are now in a position of authority and power at NXT. It's quite the culmination, I'd say.
Yeah, well, it's surreal. I mean, I don't know that, again, there's a difference from what you do from a storyline standpoint. Back in the day, DX taking over and fighting authority and all of that, and then to fast forward all these years later, and clearly, look, it's no secret that everyone knew that, Hunter was eventually going to be, again, someone in, at least in control or very close to it. Clearly he's been, readying himself for that for the last decade. But I don't know, but then to bring ourselves where we're at now for me to be, here and running NXT, I certainly didn't foresee that. But again, very excited about it. It's a huge opportunity, not just for me, but for all of NXT and the WWE. This is a very exciting time. We're all very encouraged about the future. And certainly, again, I just think all of us are just looking, to do the best job we possibly can. Very excited about doing it. But the great thing is everybody's kind of working in unison. And I've made the, analogy before, everybody's pulling the rope in the same direction. And when you do that, look, it's very hard not to, one, to have success, but also just have a great, just overall morale from a crew standpoint, even from a corporate standpoint. Everybody's excited and encouraged about the future. And look, I think that's a great foundational aspect to start on.
Yeah, you talk about the unison, you talk about the synergy. Even tomorrow on NXT, as we speak right now on Monday, we're having Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez battle members from the main roster. We're seeing Cora Jade tonight on Raw as we speak at the moment. We saw Roxanne on SmackDown last week. So just that feeling that anything can happen. I feel like, again, going full circle from the Attitude Era, from the DX days, we're getting that must-see feel again with WWE, just in a different form from 25 years ago. And I think you guys are doing a great job of that so far.
Well, thank you. And look, that is part of the, again, we all work, we're all under the same banner, right? And it really is, again, it's about not knowing what's going to happen next, not being so predictable, but of course, using all of your resources that you have. There's so much incredible talent here in NXT, on Raw and SmackDown, and it's crazy not to utilize all of that. And so certainly that's what we're trying to do. And it's great to be able to just, again, kind of make a phone call, get in touch with people and say, hey, what about this? What do you think about that? And just the creative process, the creative synergy that we have from a company standpoint is incredibly encouraging.
Yeah, and this day of you guys running Raw, SmackDown, NXT respectively together, we all kind of knew was coming at some point, like you mentioned. It wasn't just an abrupt change. I mean, it was over the summer, but it's been kind of slowly, things have been progressing over the last couple of years, which has been great to see. With that DX reunion last week on Raw at the Barclays Center, almost exactly 25 years from when you guys first joined forces with everyone involved in that original incarnation of the group. How did that reunion hit different, so to speak, as far as compared to all the other reunions you guys have had over the last 10, 15 years in WWE? Obviously, you had X-Pac there as well. Road Dogg was there. So you guys had most of the original crew there as well. How did that reunion hit different now that you Triple H specifically, Road Dogg being back in the fold as well, was different than original other reunions now that everything's kind of come where you guys are in positions of power?
Well, certainly, obviously, the biggest change is, I don't know, that you have a lot of other work in the process of that day that you have to take care of. I'm having to have meetings, with people here down in Florida, having to make production meetings on Zoom and conference calls and things like that. Having an office that I need to work out, NXT. And certainly Hunter having to again run the show. I mean, so that in and of itself obviously is the biggest change as opposed to just at one time being a talent and sort of knowing about your segment. So just having to juggle. Certainly, I guess it's something Hunter has done over the years, which is juggle an on-air character with also having to run things behind the scenes. But certainly for me, it's one of the first times I've been having to do a lot of those have a lot of those plates spinning, so to speak. But it's again, it's exciting and it's fun to do. But certainly, I think the one thing that is the same is that when all of us kind of just get together in the same room, it's like the buddies that you have in high school. You just sort of pick up right where you left off. We still don't take any time to rehearse. We still don't follow the script. You know what I mean? And some things with DX are still the same. And I think that's something that comes across both behind the scenes and on camera, which is more than anything, it's about fun. It's about this job being enjoyable, not just as a performer, but also the people behind the scenes and working on it. All of this can be fun. That's an environment that has been here in NXT for a long, long time, since its inception. It's something that Hunter incorporated, from its foundation, and it's certainly something that I've certainly tried to make sure that we continue and in fact try to build on. And clearly you can feel that up there at Raw, and I know that it's on SmackDown as well. And I think that's the biggest thing, really overall, is that it's, and it isn't so much a DX culture by any stretch.
Yeah.
It's just about the joy and the fun, again, of what this job is and what it truly can be. And now it's actually happening. And I think everybody's very excited about that.
Yeah, for a long time, it seemed like it was exclusive to only NXT, with you guys kind of running the show there for several years. And it was a very different culture as far as from a viewer standpoint with Raw and SmackDown, for better or for worse. And now we're seeing it across all three brands where, like you said earlier, the unison, the consistency, as far as if you see someone in NXT and they pop up on Raw or SmackDown, Legato, for example, we just saw pop up on SmackDown, you're not going to get a vastly different group than what we just saw in NXT a month or two ago, which is encouraging as a viewer. And I guess earlier you mentioned my next question as far as the old DX reunions, and DX is DX. You guys have always been the same as far as calling your own shots. My question was, as far as this reunion, was it a bit different not having someone behind the scenes, such as a Vince, like not calling the shots, but like overseeing certain things and not telling you to do certain things? You guys are calling the shots now, but I guess that was always the case with DX anyway, so it didn't really matter, I guess, regardless, as far as you guys being in charge of this one and not having anyone behind the scenes kind of calling the shots for you guys.
Yeah, well, I will say, look, we've always been very fortunate to have a fair amount of freedom. That's for sure. And I will say, look, I like to think that's something that we've earned. But I can say this. Look, I don't know if we'd maybe had quite the range. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know how far they would have let us go in the past. But look, I'm always pretty remiss about ever knocking anything in the past, because for me, everyone from this, from the top to bottom of this company have been good to me over the years. And so certainly DX has always had a lot of free reign because it was altogether a different entity in and of itself. And it's built on sort of, not doing things the right way. So I think to ever try to take too much away from that, I don't think anybody would have ever tried to sort of scalp DX, so to speak, because that's just anti-productive to whatever the character and the team as a whole. So look, we always tried to have fun. I think this week, obviously, look, a lot of it helps that everybody's there feeling it at the same time. Even the attitude of watching the show from you, the viewer, so to speak. I think even the viewer is watching the show in a different place, and that makes it even better for us, because things are going to hit more and feel better, certainly to you and to us as performers, because we very much use that feedback that we get from our fans and our viewers, what I mean? And the more genuine all of that is, the better the product's going to be as a whole. So honestly, in this time, I think it's really better for everybody on both sides of the coin.
Yeah, we're seeing that every week, like I said, with NXT that you're in charge of, Raw and SmackDown with Triple H, and we're going to be seeing that on Saturday with Halloween Havoc. And I think the cool thing about the show specifically, there's so much talent right now in NXT, but like specifically the youth with developmental NXT that we're going to be seeing going forward. Two women specifically, like I mentioned earlier, Roxanne and Cora. 20, 21, 19. I forgot their ages exactly. Extremely young, already as good as they are, which is almost scary. No pun intended with it being Halloween Havoc. But just talking about the talent in NXT, I feel like a lot of these people, I mean, I guess with Roxanne and Cora, they're so young. They were probably growing up on the '09 version of DX, which is wild to think about. Now they're in NXT. Just talking about that, I think it helps having talent in NXT that grew up on you guys specifically, kind of already knowing how you work, being fans of you, and just talking about that relationship you have with the talent and that really working to your benefit as far as running the brand.
Well, look, they definitely understand, yeah, that everything that they're hearing from us is coming from people that have done it, that have been there, and certainly even in the eyes of a talent, people that have done it at a high level. And I think that means a lot to them. And I think they also know that, again, we care. I think honestly, when everything's said and done, man, I think that's the biggest I don't know, difference maker. They know how much we care. And the thing is, you know, we are invested in the young men and women that come through this place. We genuinely do care about them. We want them to have success. And I think they believe that and they feel that from us. And look, I also know that to your point, gosh, you're talking about maybe an average age of 20, 21 in that match. That's almost obscene, isn't it? I mean, and as you said, they grew up on the second version, and even they're having to go back on Peacock, and they look at us, and I even get it from, you know, my daughter and, you know, and our son, and they're like, holy cow, man, you guys were crazy, Dad. It's, you know, but it also helps them to understand where we're coming from, and they do understand that we appreciate there being this other side of you and being able to push that envelope, but also having us couple with it, you know, a little bit of wisdom and knowing those places where we went a little far. Again, because things have changed, the world has changed, we may have to hem this or round this out. And they understand that we're doing that, not trying to take anything away, but trying to create the best opportunity for them and help them go to the next level. And so it is, look, our experience and what we bring to the table is a huge help for us when it comes to having credibility with our talent.
Like I said earlier, we're going to be seeing that on Saturday with Halloween Havoc. And what I think it's exciting about the show, and not just the fact it's Halloween Havoc, and traditionally for the last couple of years, very fun show, whether it be an episode of NXT, now kind of a special on Saturday, which is even cooler. I feel like this is going to be a statement show for NXT, and you've been obviously running the brand now for a while, obviously. But as far as the first major special under the NXT umbrella with the new updated logo, there's a lot of optimism going into this new era, I guess you can call it, of NXT. Still the same product as far as the matches, the talent, the storylines for the most part. Obviously, some modification there in the last couple of weeks for the better. Can you talk a little bit about that as far as how important this show you see Halloween Havoc being, with it being the first show under the new yellow and gold or black and gold, I guess, whatever you want to call it, version of NXT moving forward?
Sure. Well, again, I think it's everything that you said, because I agree with you. This is sort of our first, you know, this is also, look, Halloween Havoc, that's been a TV special in the past. It's been a fantastic TV special. I like to think that it's always been pretty darn successful, but now we're taking it to a premium live event. It is a fun, enjoyable, you know, themed show, obviously. It is under the new banner, all the things that you mentioned, and it is, we want to kick this off. We do want to make a statement. We want this to be, you know, a very good show, a very enjoyable show. Look, you know, at the future of NXT, and I feel like Halloween Havoc, you know, and Stand and Deliver, you know what I mean, could sort of our premier shows, almost our version of our WrestleMania and our SummerSlam, so to speak, that are two of NXT's premium events, you know, in certainly in a calendar year. You know, obviously, as 2023 rolls around, we'd love to, you know, add some more to those. But I don't disagree with anything you said. This is a big show for us. We're looking to have, you know, a great deal of eyeballs on us. We know it's going to be a fun show. With what we're doing Tuesday night, with bringing so many main roster people in, we feel like we've got some fun surprises cooked up for everybody at Halloween Havoc, and we are enjoying the momentum that we have, and are hoping for even more momentum coming out of Halloween Havoc on this Saturday.
merging NXT as we went down here, merging NXT with DX and everything we've talked about so far. I mean, it's obviously a very different world, wrestling world, WWE world, from when DX started 25 years ago to what we have now. And in being in charge of NXT now, what lessons, or I guess what advice would you bestow upon the current NXT talent as far as pushing the envelope, maybe not to the extent that you guys did in certain degrees back in the late 90s. I mean, everything, it's a very different world. Certain things you can get away with, some things you can't. But like, as far as getting, maybe not getting that edge back, because we do have an edge now in WWE and just in wrestling that's different than what it was in the 90s. And how you define it is obviously subjective depending on who you talk to. But like, how would you talk to talent as far as like, this is how you can push the envelope today, whether it be stealing the show or just your intensity and what you say and what you can do and what you can get away with, what you can't get away with. Kind of a loaded question, a bit all over the place. But as far as that edge, how would you kind of advise the talent to take that advice going forward as far as bringing that DX formula and that DX vibe to today's WWE?
Well, what I try to tell them is the hardest work they're ever going to do is up here.
Yep.
And that is creatively, as far as, again, I think what made DX what it was, and even the Attitude Era, what it was trying to think ahead of the times that we were in. Again, we just felt a change, a wave coming that was very different than what wrestling was. We wanted to take it from the traditional and the purist standpoint, into something more, again, into more sports entertainment, even though apparently that phrase has been around for a long time. But,
Yeah.
it just felt that it needed to be bigger. Now, look, some people would argue that we've almost sort of gone back to maybe a traditionalist and purist, sort of standpoint in the business, to where people feel like, once again, that there's maybe a real version of what we do. This guy's a real wrestler as opposed to this guy who's not. And look,
Sure.
I will always say that's something that I've always had a little bit of conflict with, because to me, it's all kind of the same. It's all equally as real, if you know what I mean. And so, but again, I think what I want them to do is to think about all of that. And what is that next wave? What is that next mindset? I think more than anything, that's what all the young men and women that come through NXT that I'm hoping to find, is that someone that just sort of hits on something that makes us go like, let's investigate that. Let's look into that more, clearly. Let's give that some thought. And so I want to encourage them to think outside the box, because again, I'm probably always going to draw on something that I've experienced. And I'm at least honest enough to know that, you know what I mean? I think my most innovative days are probably behind me. It doesn't mean I can't take something, again, I think that's what Hunter and I do well. I think that's what Vince did well, is take something that someone said or that they thought of and made it bigger and better than what it was. And I think that to me is what I encourage our talent and our young men and women to do, which is just continue to keep this going creatively and try to come up. There's no such thing as a bad idea. No stupid questions, any of that stuff. Continue to ask questions. Continue just to keep pushing forward and not being satisfied. I don't think we'll ever get tired of that. So I tell them there's no such thing as bothering me too much.
That's great advice to give to your talent to kind of strengthen that relationship. And like you said, just kind of building upon the foundation of what we already have in NXT, not completely blowing up the product and going in a completely different direction. You're taking what you have and just making it better than it was before, which I think is the best possible thing you could do with Raw, SmackDown, and NXT respectively. But like I said, Halloween Havoc coming up on Saturday, 8 p.m., October 22nd on Peacock for people to check out. Tuesdays, NXT, of course, as well. Shawn, thanks so much for the time. I know you've done a ton of interviews in the last couple of weeks, days, months. We spoke twice in August. Such a pleasure to talk to you again here today. I appreciate the time.
Again, dude, I appreciate you having me. I appreciate you always making time for me and obviously doing us so well. So I appreciate it very much from you.
Absolutely, Shawn. Thanks so much for everything. Look forward to Saturday night. Best of luck on a great show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Shawn. Appreciate it.